We are live as it stands. Hello, hello, everybody.
Welcome to the No Fly Zone.
There you go. There you go. What's good? What's good? All right, we waiting for Big Lou. What we got a special guest for you guys. He's a real good supporter, real good guy. We've seen him everywhere. So we're gonna hear a little about his story, a little history, and hopefully you guys enjoy it. If you have any questions, put it in the chat. If we can answer them, we'll answer them for you. So I'm not gonna go any further, and I'm gonna put the man on himself, and let's give him an applause here.
I
Big
know.
Primo, Big Primo in the house. Oh, we got another one coming in.
Primo
Big
number
Lou in the house.
Hey.
Good evening, gentlemen.
So what's going on, Primo? How we doing, man?
Doing great, thanks.
Everybody's doing good. Lou, what's up? How you doing, bro?
Just chilling, chilling.
I'm flattered you guys asked me to be here.
Of
Yes,
course,
sir.
man. Of course. You the man. Let me see if I can fix these pictures here.
Yeah, that
There we
works.
go. Okay, I found it.
There we go. Beautiful.
Hey, Yankees. Hey, Veal.
Yeah, roll call.
My
Roll
guys.
call. Do that roll call, Lou. There we go.
Everett, Yankees for life. Mickey
Everett,
Griggs,
thank
Conrad
you.
Pinkville. What else we got? Cousin
Cousin
Paulie.
Paulie.
Cousin
Cousin
Paulie's in
Paulie.
the house.
Cousin
Good
Paulie.
evening. Good evening, gentlemen. Daniel Infante. Bienvenido. Welcome.
Robert's in the house.
Robert Pimentel. Saludos.
The end.
Steve and
Oh, you
Vito.
do.
There we go. We got a couple of people
So-
going. So we're gonna let some people get into the chat. That way, we'll start off, and Primo could give us a little taste of his life story.
Yeah, like that picture tells at the beginning, the Chicago story.
There you go. There you go. Oh
That
man,
was-
that picture. That's a nice picture, by the way.
Yeah. That's how it looks on St. Patty's Day.
On St. Patty's Day.
Yeah.
Oh, that's when they turn the water. They change the water. They turn the water green, huh?
Yeah.
The lake right there.
Yeah. The Chicago River, all around the city.
Oh, that's
Yeah, I seen that. I seen that. Yeah, in the last couple of years though, because of COVID, they didn't have one.
Yeah.
I know for sure 1 or 2 years. Boss lady, hello, welcome.
Boss lady, Mickey Griggs.
The Endu and Edward Everett. How you doing, guys?
I wish I was losing weight, Mickey Griggs. I was just telling Primo I'm about 330.
Yeah, 5'3". That's not good.
I'm right behind you.
330. You can't tell that, you know.
After I quit smoking, it was just I gained 120 pounds,
Wow.
like right away. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, now I gotta smoke a cigarette.
Yeah, I can't quit.
It's been 11 years for me.
Mama didn't raise no quitter,
Good
damn it.
job. Good job, Primo.
Thank you.
A lot of people. Yeah, a lot of people. It's hard, man.
But they tell me my lungs are almost back to normal.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I haven't seen any pictures lately.
Listen,
No,
Edward, if I quit
everybody.
smoking, I look like a Teletubby.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was shocked, at how my metabolism reacted to that. I was not expecting that kind of thing,
Well, we're so used to smoking, and
Yep.
it's like an appetite suppressant. So once we're done with it, we just thought we're gonna do something else. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and for a lot of those years, I traded. So I was on the floor for a long time, and then after that, I was on the desk, from home.
Yeah.
So from the office, online trading. I saw that coming back in the 90s.
wow.
So I got out. Luckily, I got out at a good time.
Got cheating.
Listen, you know what? And I gotta ask, what is and it's totally off base, but where you guys are at, what is the gas prices right now?
Oh man, I was just telling my dad they're like 515 right now, the lowest one. 515, and in the Bay Area where I work, it's about 550.
Wow.
Gallon. But LA area, it's like over $7. I seen it on another show today, another chat.
Yeah, my daughter, she's in Riverside, and she said they have some places in Riverside at $8.
Well, out here in Georgia, it was two something,
Oh,
$2.89, and then all of a sudden I seen that price start going boop 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 boop. So today I said, damn, it went overnight. It went from $4 to $4.50. So it seems like every night it keeps going up, and I'm like, wait a minute, what the hell?
Here we go. OC 714. What's the gas prices right there in Orange County? If you don't mind answering, please. So he's in Orange County, so that's close to Riverside. You know, it's
yeah, I bet they're ridiculous.
$6.79. Look at that. Wow.
$6.79 Orange County. So he's about I don't know. That's about 4.5 hours from me, I guess, south.
Wow.
Yeah.
Right, Primo? Because you're about 2 hours. You're about 2 hours south of me. Two and a half, I guess.
Yeah, I'm about 3 or 4 hours to Riverside. So, which is right next to Orange County.
Jeez.
Okay, Robert's in I think Oxnard or Ventura, I believe, or Santa Barbara. He's down there somewhere, and $6 a gallon in the 805. So that's the area code he's at.
Yeah.
Long Island, Everett said 430.
Yeah, and my daughter said it's averaging around $6, but she said there's a couple of crazy places. If you're not paying attention, you know, they'll charge you $8.
Yeah.
P Nava, welcome, bienvenido. San Luis County. So San Luis Obispo and all the coastal area.
Yeah,
my man's Vens in the house.
You're in one of the most expensive areas there, Lou.
Wow.
Yeah, especially the Bay Area. But LA still has us by over $1 more a gallon.
Yeah, but San Francisco, that's got to be the most expensive housing and prices generally.
Yeah. So now people dropping the working back, boy. That's going to be an arm and a leg.
That's when you start taking that bus, that $1.50, that $1.50 fare, man, or you can catch a bus for $7 from here to Dublin, and then you can jump on the BART to Fremont. You know what I mean?
Well, wait till they start shooting the prices of bus fare and all that stuff. Because
that's all going to go up too.
That's coming real soon.
But it's still going to be cheaper, I believe.
Yeah.
Lou, do you remember when they were talking about that train going all the way to LA, the high-speed rail? They dug that stuff up around.
What happened to that? Yeah, what happened to that?
Yeah, and then they stopped. They tore up probably 100 miles of stuff and just left it.
Gotcha.
That was crazy.
We got about 15 in there now. Kick it off.
We got 15. Yeah, I'm looking to see if we're going a little bit further, but I guess not. So we'll keep it moving. So anyway, you know, people could watch if they want to see, you know, the replay. They can watch the replay on it. You know, thank God. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna be a good one. Huh?
It's gonna be a good one.
Yeah, we got Anthony in the house. Boston Red.
Anthony Elios. Boston Red. Good evening, gentlemen.
We got good people up in the chat, and that's what matters.
And Carlos, if any questions from the chat, if I'm talking, feel free to cut me off.
No, you're good. I got you. That's what I'm doing. That's why I'm laid back, being quiet. I'm in the chat. I'm monitoring, and I'm reading the questions.
Yeah.
So Primo's gonna open up about himself, and then at some point, guys, if anybody has any questions in the chat, feel free to post questions.
We'll open them up, and then we'll put the question right onto the screen. And Primo, I'll put the question on the screen, so I'm pretty sure you'll be able to see it.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
So I'll leave it. I'll do one of these numbers, and bam. Can you see there you go.
Sven Larson, my favorite Danish in the box.
Sven,
he's a good guy, man.
All right.
He's been solid ever since I met him.
All right, so I'll block. I'm moving the other screen over, so I'll block the chat. This way I don't get distracted.
Okay, yeah. Anything that comes up, I'll put up for you, and you answer it the best way you can. If you want to tell them, nah, I ain't answering nothing, you can do that too.
Gotcha.
All right, guys. So we're gonna start it off here. So Primo's gonna give us a little rundown on his life from the beginning to where he's at now. So Primo, I'm letting you take it from there.
Thank you, Nelson. So number one, important to say, I was never in the outfit. I wasn't an associate. My stepfather basically was childhood friends with Jackie Cerrone. And so that was, we called him Uncle Jack growing up. Coming over on Sundays, he loved my mom's cooking, so he'd pay us a visit a few times every few months, Can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you perfectly fine.
Okay. So as a kid, after high school, right around high school time is when we decided to be street kids, and we grew up in Northlake, Illinois. So as the Italians went west from the city, they started in Little Italy, to the Patch, then to the near west suburbs. So that's where all the bosses lived at that point: River Forest, Elmwood Park, Melrose Park. I was in Northlake. You had Stone Park, Franklin Park, and these were all the suburbs. We call it basically near west suburbs. And where I grew up was Mannheim Road, which is one of the streets that go directly to O'Hare Airport. So they were banking on in the 50s and 60s that Chicago would be the Vegas in the Midwest. So Mannheim Road was the street they were planning, and that's where they had all the hotels, strip joints, gambling joints along Mannheim. And I grew up probably a half a block. I could walk to Mannheim Road. At the corner of my block was a hotel where most of the prostitutes operated out of. So growing up, we used to sneak into the pool, and the prostitutes used to cover for us as the kids. Yeah, they're with us, So we got to know them pretty good back in the day. Across the other side of, so you had Mannheim Road, and then we were sort of in between Grand Avenue, which you've probably heard of the Grand Avenue crew from Chicago, in between Grand Avenue and North Avenue. So our stop, that's where I lived. So the other side of the block was basically, when we first moved there, it was like an open field. And as we were growing up, they steadily put warehouses, factories, became an industrial block. And that's where me and my friends hung out on that block. So that was our turf, so to speak. And finding out slowly that the outfit also had warehouses on that block as well. So as we were robbing all those warehouses and factories, because we had nothing else to do back then, we'd be called in. Hey, did you guys know anything about this? So you gotta give that back, or don't watch this place. These places are okay. Don't touch these places. Again, that's me and my friends basically did the tough guy stuff. So we had a little. My house was one of the places we all gathered because I was also close to that block where we hung out. So we used our garage for like boxing, in whatever else, working out, lifting weights, that type of thing. I'm trying to remember what we talked about yesterday. The guys, all right. So the guys that my stepfather knew, Cerrone, again, he was our guardian angel. He was our guy. He and Ayupa, who also we call Joey O'Brien, became co-front bosses after Giancana was dismissed. Before they killed him, but those two guys were like co-front bosses at the time. And that's kind of backed up by some historians. I again, chasing history because I really didn't know who a lot of the guys were growing up. So finding out later that they sort of shared power. So the DeFranzos were Cerrone's crew. Spilatro was Ayupa's crew. And when they sent Spilatro to Vegas, they used to send DeFranzo to go check on him, make sure he ain't stealing. And so after Rica died, that's when Ricardo took over, and that's when they whacked Giancana, and those were the guys basically, in charge at the time. When we were growing up, along with Robin and stuff, we did a lot of the drugs. It was the 70s, so drugs was crazy. It was all kinds of drugs. You had weed, angel dust, THC, MDA, coke, and a lot of different kinds of weed too. But we were dealing all of it. And one of the outfit guys that used to come over, and one of the tougher guys that I ever met in my life was a New York Pete. That's what we called him. Americo Di Pietro was his name. And he had just gotten out of prison. It was around 74, 75. And he used to stop by as well because he knew my stepfather as well. And this is the guy one day, he came over driving his Cadillac, in a suit, comes out of the house. How much you guys lifting there? We had like 300 on the bench, and he was probably 65 years old at the time, and did 5 reps with 300 pounds. And me and my friends were just stupefied, But you could tell he was a different kind of guy, like even other outfit guys showed him respect. So kind of a fear factor. A lot of people feared Cerrone because he was nuts. And I didn't know this because he was never nuts in front of us. I didn't find out till later. But this guy, New York Pete, he worked with Milwaukee Phil Alderigio and Nicoletti. So they worked together. But you always heard about Nicoletti and Milwaukee Phil, but you never heard about New York Pete. I found amazing. But I had an opportunity. Again, he's like, all the guys called me the kid. It's like, hey kid, you want to make some money? What are you doing next week? And I said, whatever, I'll make some money, And that's when we started. That's when the drug thing started for us as far as quantity went. So him and I took a ride in his Cadillac down to Florida. And he said, when we got there, he took me aside. He says, you're going to carry this. You're going to ride shotgun with the truck back. Don't talk to the driver. Don't ask questions. You just make sure, if anybody tries to jack you, you take care of it, which was a huge responsibility. And it took a couple of days. We were down there for 2 days until the truck got ready. To this day, I have no idea what was in the truck. But when we were down there in the Miami area, we drove around a little bit, and he had lunch. And this is for the New York guys. I had no idea who this guy was. Ettore Zappi for the New York crews. Found out later. At the time, I had no idea. Him, his son Anthony, and his stepson Walt basically had lunch with us. And the other guy came later, and I'm about 70% sure, that varies in my mind, but I'm pretty sure that was Meyer Lansky. Because this guy Zappi, back in New York, he still had his house in New York, and he lived next door to Carlo Gambino. Found out later he was the porn king in the 60s and 70s, and then gave it to whoever he gave it to when he went to Florida.
Wow.
Yeah. So he was personal friends with Gambino, which is why I figured this other guy, because he was real short. That's all I remember about the other guy. He was real short. But I've seen film of Meyer Lansky, he lived in Florida. And I have to think that this, as high as this guy Zappi was, that this was probably a high up, this had to be Meyer Lansky, considering we were down there picking up a truckload of drugs as well,
Yeah.
When we got back to Chicago, my pay was a pound of cocaine. And that pound of cocaine is what led to the luck of that cocaine is what led to my choice of leaving Chicago and going in the Air Force. So we had the coke, putting it on the street. At 16 years old, my parents told me, you got to leave. If you're going to do drugs, and you got to leave. You got to get the fuck out of the house. Can't do it here, So I did. At 16, I had an apartment, 4 or 5 other guys. 3 of them were actually paying rent with me. So the other 1 or 2 guys were just sleeping there whenever, But it was all part of the boxing crew and that type of thing. And probably 2 months into it, our apartment got robbed. They took 2 ounces of the coke, which is about $5-6 grand, and found, we put the word out who the fuck robbed us. We want to know. Found out it was a kid living in the city. He knew one of the guys, so we found out where he lived. Me and another guy that lived in the apartment went to pay him a visit. The fucking coke was gone. He powder all over the place. He was a mess. The kid was fucked up. We figured he had to have a party because the place was just trashed. So we were going to kill him. It's like he had no money. He had nothing. He was begging us not to kill him. And my buddy, sensed that we were getting there. It's like we beat the fuck out of him. We didn't use bats or anything. But I was carrying from 16 on. I had a .357 Magnum revolver that I carried, and I just kept getting more and more pissed off with the guy. And rather than shoot him, and I decided, as stupid as it was at the time, to call his dad and basically hold him for fucking ransom. The dad, again, it was so fast. The dad's like, "Oh, did you hurt him? How bad is he? Oh, he's a little fucked up, but he's alive, So if you want to keep it that way, I want my fucking cash, He's like, no problem. Don't hurt him, meet us at this restaurant, meet me at this restaurant, not us, meet me at this restaurant. And so me and my buddy go to the restaurant. This is a Friday or Saturday night. And usually every place was hopping. There was a lot of traffic. This restaurant was fucking empty, So we get out of the car, knew right away it was a setup, Told my buddy, get in the car, go home, I'll take it from here. Because I knew I was fucked either way, and I knew the last thing I was going to be getting was my money. So I didn't want my buddy to get in trouble. It's like, you go. And sure enough, we hit the door. As soon as I walked in, gun butt to the face, rifle, I don't know what it was. But I was on the ground seeing stars, handcuffed, put me in county jail for 2 weeks, which was a constant 2-week fight. At that point, they let me out. And I immediately had my stepfather, he's like, you got to go see Uncle Jack. I'm like, all right. That's when they told me, we worked it out with the cop. You're going before the judge. You're going to get the fuck out of Chicago. So you're going to go in the service. You're going to have the option to join the military. You're going to take it, slap, be in court, So got to court. Sure enough, the judge says, all right, you got 3 months to go join a branch of service and report back, tell us which one and when you're leaving. And so I went in Melrose Park. They had one of the shopping centers, had all the recruiters, Marines, Navy, Coast Guard, Air Force. Took the test originally for the Marines. That was, I wanted to kill the bad guys. The Marines were the place to do it. Took the test. The scores came back crazy high. I scored a 92, I believe, out of 99 or 100, whatever it was. The Navy guy yelled out, "Hey, don't sign anything with him. Come and see me first. I got a better deal for you." And they were offering signing bonuses, at the time. And then so I'm like, wow, they're, something's going on. I might have a choice, So I went and talked to the Coast Guard guy who Coast Guard wasn't even, they weren't taking anybody at the time. They were full. Air Force guy looks at me and he goes, you know, you seem to have a lot of involvement with the law, because as a kid, you know, I did have probably 15 battery charges on my juvenile record, you know.
Sure.
And he's like, yeah, the Air Force probably won't take you, you know. So that was my challenge. You know, it's like, I want to get in the Air Force. And so I convinced that recruiter to actually work on the waivers for me. And he got me in. Took about 6 months total, at which time, you know, we told the judge, left Chicago in basic training in 79. You could try out, you know, for different things. And you took a day off of basic training. It's like, yeah, you can go and try out for pararescue, special forces. There's 2 or 3 different things. And I did, and I actually qualified. So they said, all right, after basic, you come here, you know, and then wait for the class to open up. Found out pararescue was a medic job. So you weren't killing the bad guys. It's like, I don't want to be a medic. It's like, well, you are. It's like, no, I don't want that, you know. And they said, well, the only other option is combat control, but that school doesn't open up for like another month, you know. So we're not sure if we're going to keep you here that long or not. And, you know, to end the argument, that's when the Iranian hostage rescue attempt happened. So that was the early part of 1980 at that point, because basic was over. And they decided, we're not taking anybody. Cut them loose. And that's when I, you know, picked a job in logistics, went overseas, and basically stayed overseas the whole time. You know, while I was there, I got married to another Air Force member who was in a top secret type of job. And anybody that knows the military, if you're getting married, you got to have base commander approval if it's another military member. So the only way he was going to approve the marriage, believe it or not, I couldn't believe they had to approve it. The only way they would approve it is if I got I had to get the same clearance she had, you know. And with the background, they were doubting that would happen, but it did. We got married and wound up that's when I transferred into intelligence. So I was in logistics, and because I had the clearance, they couldn't waste the money, so they moved me into intelligence, and I was doing war planning at that point. Again, the important part is that I left Chicago, and the outfit guy was the guy who made it happen. So, you know, he knew the judge or the cop or both, you know, not sure. But, you know, if it wasn't for him, I would have probably just gone to county jail and live the life at that point.
Yeah, he'd seen something in you.
He did. And that's always a big difference between Chicago and New York, because the kids weren't allowed to, you know, they didn't make the kids, you know. You were discouraged. Like Cerrone's kid was a lawyer, you know. The only kid that got made was Frank Calabrese Jr., and that was a shit show.
Yeah, we know where that went.
Right. And Frank was a few years younger, but he grew up in Elmwood Park, which was the next town over. You know, I didn't actually graduate high school. I got kicked out of high school in junior year, and they sent me to an alternative school, which is where I met a lot of these guys. This is where I met Calabrese and a couple of the kids of the guys who were in his dad's crew. You know, we were all kind of there, and that's when we were running around on the Grand Avenue crew turf, you know, which is where I met Frank Jr. Again, we boxed all the time, but not officially. And that's when I was telling you, we had that Marvis Frazier was in town for Golden Glove challenges. I believe it was in Indiana, and he was at the gym where in Melrose Park, where Rocky DeFazio was the coordinator at that gym. And he was always trying to get us to fight, and we weren't into the organized thing, but we did get to spar with Marvis Frazier. So, yeah, come on in. I want to see you guys, fight with this guy, And
for everybody that doesn't know, that's Joe Frazier's son.
That is Joe Frazier's son. And I guess they were in the Philly. They're out of Philly. So
Correct.
they had 3 or 4 guys from Philadelphia with them because I guess the challenge was with Indiana, somewhere in Indianapolis. But they were stopping at Melrose Park because Joe Frazier knew it was either Ricardo or Ayupa or somebody, and he was doing them a favor by stopping in,
Didn't Joey Ayupa used to box too, didn't he? I believe so.
I didn't really know Joey Ayupa. I did. Cerrone got me out of a jam with Ayupa over a fight I had with a bouncer at one of the strip clubs. Was Ayupa's guy. So I had Cerrone, they want to whack you, kid. You're coming with us. You're going to sit down. You're going to shut up. I'll do the talking. You fucking shake hands and leave, So he got me out of that jam, which was, I didn't realize it till 2 days later, but that was one of the ones. And in our area, that one kid that did make it in boxing was, if you guys ever heard of him, Lenny LaPaglia, which would have been in the 80s. I guess he had some title fights. I was overseas, so I didn't really get to see it,
Yeah.
But our block, one of the other Northlake claims to fame that we had was my backyard was kind of a grassy, no fences. 2 doors down from me was the Sullivan family, which, if you heard of the group Survivor, Frankie Sullivan was the lead guitar player. So when we were growing up, they had 8 kids in the family. So I was friends with 2 of the younger brothers, So we always, while they were playing at some of the clubs, we would work helping them set up, schlep the equipment around. So that was the other guy from Northlake that did good. Other than that, that's where Nicoletti got killed, So when I got out of the Air Force, it was at that point, I was trying to further my career. I wanted to get the degree because you couldn't be an officer; you had to have a degree. And they had programs while you were enlisted. They'll send you to college, pay for it, and then come back in, and they send you to officer OTS. So it was a competitive thing. You had to take tests. Took the tests, did good on the test, but I just didn't get selected, mainly because of your juvenile record,
your background.
Yeah, because I had probably 50 pages of waivers that this recruiter did. He really did me a solid, and I enjoyed the hell out of it, but I didn't get selected. So as much as we tried, I wound up getting out. They transferred my wife to Beale Air Force Base in California. I got transferred into the reserves, and this would have been like 83, 84. So at that point, she was working with the SR-71 spy plane, which was top secret as hell. We had to live on base. Our phones were tapped, They would follow me usually if I was driving out to go to school, because I would commute. There was probably, Big Lou, you've heard of Marysville, Yuba City, right?
Of course.
So Beale Air Force Base was closer to Marysville. My commute was Marysville to Chico every day, which probably a couple hours each way. Yeah, typical California. So it was a long 4 years, but I wound up getting my degree a year early. The wife her job was real interesting because she got to work. She was a photo interpreter. So she got to look at the satellite photos, the SR-71 photos, and they sent her to Area 51 2-3 times a year. So she'd fly into Vegas, go to Nellis Air Force Base, and then they drive her out to wherever the fuck they drove her out to. She couldn't really talk about it. She used to, they used to debrief her and scare the hell out of her. So even to this day, she goes, "It's okay to say I worked there, but she could never really." She goes, "Whatever you see about Area 51. She goes, all I can tell you is whatever they show you on TV is 10 times more, they're just scratching the surface, so whatever they show you, there's a lot more to it, so they're not telling, they're not gonna tell you,
Yeah.
So that's kind of the nature of that. So yeah, we wound up leaving in 87. I had my degree. I started out trying to go into engineering, found out that I really didn't like it, didn't have anything in common with people who were in engineering, and wound up gravitating towards finance and the investment area. So when I got my degree, I had interviews set up later on in 87. I was going to pit stop in Chicago, visit my ma, and then, fly to New York and do some interviews. That's when the stock market crashed in 87. So they called me within 2 days of the crash. Every interview got canceled, so I was fucked. Not going to work in New York. So I wound up getting a job for like $2 an hour as a runner, So here I am with a degree, doing the same thing as these 15-year-old kids, for mom and dad send them there for the, for the summer job, So, my goal was to learn it quick, get the fuck out of there, which did happen, thank God. And I wound up working for one of the bigger option trading firms, and then eventually got my own seat, So we lived in River Grove at the time, and decided we had an apartment, decided to buy a house after a couple of good years, but got our house, and then we wound up splitting up in 96. So I got divorced. The wife moves back to Cali, which is the Cali connection. She was originally from the Southern California area, So we took the kids back to Cali. I wound up staying in Northlake. We rented the house out in Franklin Park, which is where we were at the time, and then I moved back to Northlake, which is where I met the second girlfriend. We never got married. So I had 3 kids. She had 2, and then we had 1 together. So there were 6 kids in the mix, And at that point, I, had sold my seat. I was trading from home, and my brother-in-law and I decided to start a printing company. He was a printer by trade, and so he had some ideas. We could go out and sell some printing and make some money that way, which we did, and it took off because I had connections in the finance industry, and banks and these investment companies use a lot of paper, envelopes, stationery. So just the connections I had immediately got us a lot of work. We also found out because he was already a printer, he couldn't have a company. He couldn't be a partner in a company where he was a printer. So he had to get out. So I bought him out. And that's when the political career.
That's what I want to hear.
Yeah. The political. And so you have the college, you have the Air Force. The political stuff happened when we started the printing company, moved back to Northlake. This was around 95, 96. The mayor elections were going on. And so these entrenched mayors had a lot of opposition during that year. And I was asked to be part of this new guy who's running, who was a lawyer. I have an absolute hatred of lawyers anyway, but the guy was getting rid of the guy who was currently mayor was an ex-cop who just had a stranglehold on the town, so everything was his way or get the fuck out,
Yeah.
And this is a town of about 12,000 people, so it really, you could see the impact on shit like that, And at the time, I was scheduled to be one of the alderman candidates on the slate. So there was the mayor, the treasurer, the clerk, and 4 aldermen. And so I was going to be one of the aldermen. But the house I was in, because I had split up, I was looking for a bigger house. and the bigger house was not in the same area that I would have been the alderman for, so I couldn't run. And so I decided, you know what? Well, you guys already have a guy in this area. We'll keep him on. I'll do campaign manager, you know. And that was how it started. So I was basically managing these guys, the slate, and so I noticed the mayor was using the city newspaper to campaign for himself. So he was basically using city money to promote himself. And, you know, we decided so the only way to combat that is to have our own newspaper, you know. So we said, all right, we're going to start the newspaper, and I'll be because I'm the manager and I got more time on, you know, I'm self-employed, so I'll be the editor publisher as well, you know. And as soon as that first issue came out, the current mayor sent the police to my house, got arrested, thrown in jail, and they were charging me $1,000 a day until I got a license to print for freedom of speech, you know. And that's when we got lawyers, and I wound up being on page 2 of the Sun-Times and the Tribune in '96 for being arrested for having a newspaper, which is, you know, they wanted to license freedom of speech, you know. So that was a big deal at that time, you know.
That's when you dealt with the political mob, huh?
That was the start of it. We were almost 100% certain to lose. This guy's going to wipe you up. He's got all the support, you know. He's got, you know, he's gonna, you know, do whatever he can to fuck you guys up. And they told me, they said, you know, that as soon as that newspaper comes out, we're not sure what he's going to do, but he's going to fuck with you. So little did anyone, I was in jail. I had to make phone calls, you know. It's like, what the fuck? It's like, well, you got to pay to get out. We're not letting you out until you pay. It's $1,000 a day, you know, as your fine. And right now you owe us $3,000 or whatever it was. It's like, I ain't paying, you know, fuck you, you know. So
yeah.
So, you know, my lawyer he loved it. He like, this is such a slam dunk, you know. But the Tribune wants to talk to you, the Sun-Times, go talk to all of them, you know, radio shows. We had a little cable TV station. So I wound up doing that tour, you know. But the newspaper kept coming out, and we had more people volunteering after that happened. What they didn't know is that we grew up, you know, all the people grew up in the town. So we all knew everybody. And, you know, slowly we were bringing family and friends into it. We wound up winning. Not by a lot. It was a little bit of a squeaker, but the whole slate won. And that's when I learned the political end of it. So after you win, well, beforehand, nobody wants to get involved. You're going to lose, you know, we can't we don't want to step up and back you, you know, good luck. We hope you win, you know. Blah, blah, blah. And after you win, you know, and he's now sitting in office, that's when they all come and kiss the ring and, we knew you would win. That's when, you know, that's when you learn that there's Republicans and Democrats and there's money people at the lowest level, you know. So their whole thing is, you know, here's what we want you to do, you know. So they like to control the big money jobs, the engineers, city attorneys, anybody making over $200,000, you know. They want their people in there, you know, and that's kind of how they manipulate the system, you know. And our guy, it's like, are you going along with this? You know, he's like, well, let's go to a few meetings. So I was still his main guy. And I said, you know, they wanted to give me a job with the city. I said, no, you know, I'm I don't want to be that transparent to where it's like, oh yeah, look what you got, you know, some gravy job making $200,000 a year. It's like, no, not going to happen. But it's like, at the same time, let's tell these people to fuck off.
Yeah.
It's like, where were they when we needed them, you know? And so we'd go to the meetings, and these motherfuckers were it was control for the sake of control. It's like, we're going to get rid of that mayor. We're going to get this guy in at the park district. This is going to be the library. And they wanted to control every taxing body in the area, you know. So I learned that it was split up. There's turf. The Republicans are over here. The Democrats are over here. And they're letting them go. You know, every now and then there'd be a little, you know, throw a candidate in and try to shake it up a little bit. But our mayor went along with the program, and I said, I can't do this. You know, I despise these fuckers. You know, and in 2002, he wins. He wins in 2000. I actually helped him. I didn't oppose him, but I helped other people run for different spots. So I never helped. Once you were an incumbent, I didn't help you anymore. So, you know, 47 candidates, 39 wins over a 6-year period. You know, I thought it was pretty good. We got a lot of guys in, new guys. And I think for the younger people, it's like, get involved at the city level, you know, in your town, even if it's dog catching, get involved.
You work your way up.
Yeah, it's a fucking eye opener. You know, you'd be surprised, you know, the kind of shit that goes on. You know, you hear about these, you know, podunk towns in the middle of nowhere where the guy's got $2 million stashed. You know, the budget's $200,000 a year. How do you get $2 million? You know, so that I was happy I volunteered to do it, but it was an eye opener. And again, Cook County, it had to be, if it's arguably the most crooked county in the country, you know. So, you know, Los Angeles, they talk about this and that, but, you know, it was, and at the same time, this is when Cicero's mayor, that Betty Lauren Maltese, who was crooked as fuck, she won. And the mayor in Melrose Park, who was an outfit guy. This is one of the few mayors who was in the outfit. And the outfit, I knew a few guys who were still, you know, who are still there, but they came and said, hey, don't help the guys in Melrose. Stay in Northlake. You know, we don't want any trouble in Melrose. It's like, okay. So, but even that guy lost. So everybody was new. But it turned out that, you know, all the new ones that came in who were supposed to clean it all up wound up becoming part of the problem.
Yeah.
They're all still there, except for Cicero's mayor. She got busted early, so they threw her in jail. But I watched it. They dismantled all of the bars. Had, you know, the you know, poker, video poker. So the bars had all these, and the mayors, our guy took them all out. You know, made it illegal. And then 5-10 years later, brought them all back. And this time they had to buy them from the city and get licensed from the city.
It's always a runaround. That's what it is. It's a runaround.
You want to take some questions, guys?
The city took over the rackets.
Definitely. We are definitely going to get some in. Let's see.
And I apologize. I lost my train of thought there 2 or 3 times.
Here's one right here. Here's
You're
one.
good, Primo. You're good.
Them dudes want to know if you had any run-ins or if you knew the Ant Spilatro.
Spilatro I met 2 times, and both times with Johnny No-Nose DeFranzo. So Spilatro is the guy they sent to Vegas to oversee things. DeFranzo was the guy they sent to Vegas to make sure Spilatro wasn't fucking up. Right. You know, and a few times, only twice that we went with him on the vacation. And for him, that was a job. You know, I'm sure he was there a lot more, but, you know, we were there twice. The first time in 71, Spilatro picked us up at the airport. So there was the limo. He wasn't, you know, he was riding in it, and then they picked us up and dropped us off. And then the second time, he was at Circus and the Flamingo, but we didn't, you know, we weren't, I never really talked to him, you know.
Then Jackie knows he became the boss too, didn't he? Or was he just a couple?
Johnny DeFront, there was 4 brothers. They grew up in the Stone Park area, which is right next door. And then they moved to Elmwood Park later. But the three brothers that I did know were Pete, Johnny No-Nos, who he became the boss, I guess in the 2000s. And that's Johnny. And then Joey D was the youngest brother. And he was the one, his wife knew my mom. So that was how we knew the DeFranzos. Jackie Cerrone was just Uncle Jack. You know, yeah. If
somebody else asked if you knew the clown. There you go. That's the other question right there. Was Jackie close to Mad Sam DeStefano? Was he part of the Action Jackson killing brutal?
That's the rumor.
And did you ever know Jackie, Joey the Clown Lombardo?
Never met him. No, he was Ayupa's guy, and they were mainly in Cicero.
So since we're on Chicago right now, just real quick, I met a guy my last time in there, and his last name is Lombardo, and he was a member of one of the organized crime organizations over here in California.
Okay.
And he told me that he started telling me, yeah, my dad's a heavy hitter from Chicago, and I just threw the name out there because I knew his last name was the same, and he looked at me like, you knew that, you know what I mean? But the guy's right now he's probably about 60. At the time he was like 61, so that's like 7 years ago. So he's about 67, 68 now. So Joey the Clown, he passed away I think he was about 90 when he passed away.
Yeah, he was trying to get out of jail on a compassionate release or whatever.
Right.
And him, the DeFranzos, Cerrone, Nicoletti, Milwaukee Phil died when I was real young, but he was the guy. I met him once, and most people when they met Jackie Cerrone said that he was a scary guy. So, now he wasn't to me because it was always a slap in the face. Hey, how you doing, kid? Go wash the car, that kind of shit. So it wasn't that way. But people who met him, who had, if you were in a bar and he was there, it was like he was a scary guy. Milwaukee Phil, when I met him, you get that weird vibe. It's like there's a scary guy.
Yes, he was.
How's that?
Yes, he was.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. 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 Like he didn't look at you. You could look through you. It's a weird, it's like he's not looking at you. He's looking through you.
That's what they say about those. That's what they say about some of those heavy hitters. That's what it feels like they're looking through you. Yeah. You hear people describe them.
The eyes is what used to get them going, boy.
Right.
You looked in them eyes, it was like looking at the devil.
Right, like Della Croce, they say, and Galante. Yeah, that cop.
Della Croce, you get scared looking at his picture,
Listen, I've seen documentaries where the cops that were investigating them used to say they didn't want to get next to him because they looked in his eyes and they were like, oh, hell no.
Well, and this guy, New York Pete, and he, there's nothing on him. I've tried to look stuff up on him, and I can't find a thing. But he hung with, this was whenever I saw these guys, he was always around, and he always got more respect than everybody. I was like, people weren't afraid of him so much, but it was like everybody just respected him, Yeah. And when he asked me to, hey, you want to make some money, kid? I was like, hell yeah, So I'm sure he had Uncle Jack's approval because he's not going to just take me, on a ride to Florida, that kind of shit. I didn't know at the time, but he was the guy that on one of the stories he told me, and I had no idea at the time who Joe Adonis was, but Joe Adonis was the guy who brought him to meet Paul Ricca from New York and say, hey kids, can you give this guy a job here in Chicago? And this was during Capone, but they went to Ricca because Ricca took care of most of the personnel business, I guess.
Yeah.
So they used to refer to the bosses as the old man. And when Ricca was alive, the old man was always Ricca. When Ricca died, they immediately whacked Giancana, and the old man from then on was Accardo. And that was for sure. The other thing is people talk about is Accardo never spent a day in jail. Well, he spent a lot of days in jail. He was just never convicted and sentenced.
That's why I got him as #1 boss of all the Borgatas in the United States.
But he did spend probably cumulatively 2 or 3 months in jail.
Yeah, but no sentences. He never was sentenced to no time. Yeah.
Right.
I think he got sentenced to that like when he wouldn't speak at like at a commission hearing or so, or like a gambling when they put those things together.
Before Congress?
Yeah. What about you ever met Carlisi? Sam Carlisi? Wings?
No.
They call him Wings?
No, not Wings. Shit, I can't remember his name. He just died. Yeah, I can't remember. It's not Sally D. I never really met him. I'm trying. The builder Andriaki, met him, and then Louis the Mooch Aboli was the guy when I was a kid. He was the guy running the pinball machines, and we used to go to the hotel lobbies and play the pinball machines, And as a kid, we would get 100 free games. And one day, Louis the Mooch comes in and he goes, "Hey, get off the fucking machines." And we got like 90 games here, 90 games. How the fuck you get 90 games? Smack me in the head. Like, get the fuck out of here. You're taking up, you're not paying anything, And Cerrone talked to him. He's like, "Did you hit the kid? Did you slap the kid in the hotel? I apologize." So that was Louis, I guess, Aboli. I believe he was from New York too, but he had brothers in New York. So they were mob guys in New York. But for some reason, they sent him to Chicago, and he was running the pinball machines and the bowling machines. If you remember the old bowling machines where you threw the puck. Yeah. So those were the machines they had control of back then as a kid.
Right.
Yeah. So, yeah. And one of the other things on Mannheim Road when we were kids, across the street, two blocks over, was a clubhouse for the Hell's Henchmen. And, as kids, we would go to the gas stations, you steal the bottles from the back, bring them around front, get the deposits, and right across the street was the Hell's Henchmen clubhouse. And they used to come in the summer and leave in the winter. And they caught us a couple of times. We were hanging around, and "What the fuck you guys doing?" And they said, "Well, all right, if you guys are going to hang around, when we leave in November, you guys make sure nobody fucks with the place." And they give us like $20, that type of thing. So
what about Calabrese Senior and Nick? Do you know them personally?
We called him Little Breeze. I knew Frankie Jr. He was a couple years younger. And
the father and uncle. Did you know them?
I did not know the father. I knew the father was nuts because they used to talk about it.
Right.
Get the shit kicked out of him a lot. I knew I was in this alternative fucking high school with kids who were their dads were part of his crew. So we would be hanging out, and Frank Jr. was always around. And you'd hear the stories of the old man's nuts and shit like that. So he's with Leonetti. I always give Leonetti and Little Breeze the benefit of the doubt when it comes to you did what you had to do, because otherwise you were going to die. Your uncle will kill you, or your dad's going to kill you.
Right.
And if you're not going to kill your dad or your uncle, you don't have much of a choice. You don't want to die.
I think the uncle used to get bullied by the dad too, or he'd get or the father would whip on him too.
Well, Nick actually took the heat off of Frank Jr. when it came to testify. So Frank really never testified against him. He testified, but not against. You know what I mean? He wasn't the guy who put the dad away. It was Nick.
Really?
Yeah. It was his testimony that took everybody down. Really.
Wow.
Because there's been some things said a lot on these channels about, they talk about Chicago. Chicago had a lot of guys that were obviously not of Italian or Sicilian descent, but they weren't made guys. They were just, associates, but making big time money for these guys, right? Like Jack McGurn and a lot of these other guys.
Yeah, that's in the early days. That was kind of, that's another thing that was different in Chicago, because the Italian neighborhoods went to the outfit for protection against the Irish. So the Irish were the ones shaking down, restaurant owners and shit like that, and the outfit guys would protect them.
Yeah, so you had who, the O'Bannons and Bugs, what's his name? Bugsy
Moran. Yeah.
Bugsy Moran, yeah. But the reason I brought that up is because a lot of people bring that up about, they say Chicago weren't made guys, right? And I don't understand that, because Chicago had one of the original 7 seats on the commission, right? When Lucky put that together in 31, it was the 5 New York City families, right? Which is the Manganos, the Lucania, the Profaci, the Bonanno, and the Gagliano, or it might have been Reina still at the time before I went to Lucchese. Okay, then you had Buffalo was Magadino, and you had Chicago. So those are the 7 original seats. Then in 59, they added Detroit, and I believe it was Philly, right? Yeah. But my point that I'm making is that these guys, I think when they're saying that they're not made guys, they're speaking of the associates, which obviously they wouldn't be made if they're not Italian or Sicilian, right? But because you mentioned earlier that Frank Jr. was made, so I wasn't aware of that.
Frank Jr. was not made.
Okay,
they were gonna make him, and then the shit hit the fan. So he was never,
because he's half Irish, right? His mother's Irish. Frank Jr.
Yeah, but you know what? I'm pretty sure that wouldn't have mattered at the time.
Right. Well, yeah, they changed some rules, and then there's another guy from Chicago. His last name is Marcelo, like Carlos from Louisiana, and they say that he just got the
Jimmy Vermeer.
Right. They say he just got an Italian last name. Like he's only got like maybe a quarter Italian in him.
Yeah, you know what I mean? The big thing was I don't think Capone actually did the ceremonies like that. His Torrio got rid of the Black Hand and then brought Capone over, and so they were basically just fighting the Irish at that point. So I don't think they were doing ceremonies, because a lot of the guys working for them, Murray the Camel, Humphreys.
There's another one. Yeah, there's another one. Yeah.
Those were guys taking care of the political end. And back in those days, a lot of the outfit guys were aldermen. They were ward block captains, precinct captains. So they were involved in politics in those days.
That's what I wanted to hear. Yeah. So it's very interesting.
Yeah, which I'm pretty sure is kind of the way it's going now. I don't want to say, I don't know for sure, because I'm not in Chicago anymore. I am, a few months out of the year, but I kind of think it's getting political. A lot of them are in politics, and either they're backing it, bankrolling it, or they're influencing again.
Right.
So it's coming full circle. But I don't think Capone did the ceremonies. You didn't hear much about that. But but in New York, they used to send the guy who represented Capone on the commission was Rica. So you see that picture of Rica, Luciano, and Meyer Lansky. They specifically said we'll talk to Rica, not Nitty. I didn't like Nitty.
To your knowledge, was the Black Hand was Frankie Yale? Was Frankie? Because I know he was in I don't know how to pronounce it in Italian, but Sicilian Union. Union Siciliano or something like that. I think it was.
Yeah.
Was that Black? Was they connected with the Black Hand also? Do you know?
Early on, yes, and then after they got rid of the Black Hand, no. But there was a lot of the killings with the outfit and the Union came later. So there was like power struggles between different Italian factions, where Union guys they'd be killing outfit guys. So that was back and forth too.
Do you remember, are any of you guys aware of those brothers? What were they? Volpe? The Volpe brothers? There was a whole bunch of them. I don't know. Weren't they out of Chicago?
Who?
The Volpe brothers. Volpe. Volpe.
I didn't know. I know the name, but I didn't know them. And there was a lot of names for sure. That list of people, especially in the 60s and 70s. You had, a lot of people were made guys coming out of the 40s and 50s. Because a lot of jobs, especially then with Vegas.
Right. Because Chicago always gets overlooked, as well as Detroit. You know what I mean? And Milwaukee. To a degree, Frank Ballesteri over there, and then you got even St. Louis, the St. Louis family, Kansas City family.
That's how Milwaukee Phil got his name. He was the guy that went and collected from Ballesteri.
Correct. Because like Phil. Yeah, there's a lot of guys that got a nickname when you think they're from somewhere else, but they're
he was never. They said he's from Milwaukee. No. He collected from Milwaukee. He used to go to Milwaukee and collect. And then while he was in Milwaukee, according to some credible sources, they'd rob other places. They'd pull jobs while they were there and then blame it on somebody else and leave.
Correct. Yeah. It gets interesting, man. It's very interesting.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, a lot of people did not like Milwaukee Phil. Everybody I've met who knew him hated him.
Because he was mean. He was a mean, vicious, no playing around killer.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You had a lot of those guys in Chicago, that's for sure.
Joey Dubs was another one. Their solution to everything was put somebody to sleep. They didn't play around. They weren't trying to talk to you or nothing. All he did this, put him to sleep. That was their solution.
Yeah, they pushed their wig back real quick. They didn't play that.
And I'll tell you, the other guy, you hear about the Wild Bunch, and they talk about Tony Borsellino, who got killed. When I was at the Mercantile Exchange, I knew his son Lou Borsellino, and he was a big player at the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, and we used to go out and drink a lot. And his dad was a truck driver, so you hear these stories about him being a murderer, part of the Wild Bunch. It's like he was a legit truck driver, and so that's a story I can never wash either. It's like I don't think he was part of the Wild Bunch. I think that's.
There's another question. Oh, there you go.
Yeah, no, I say people that knew when he got killed, they said he shouldn't have got killed.
You see that question right there?
Wrong guy. Which one?
On the screen, Primo. Did the outfit have any sports athletes in Chicago on the payroll that you know of?
No, not that I know of. No.
Yeah. Earlier, somebody asked if they had any Bears or Cubs or White Sox players.
I can tell you this. I knew a lot of the guys that I knew running gambling operations. Jordan was a big gambler for sure. He gave the bookies and the card games a lot of business.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Chicago is a perfect example how a family runs. How it would run if New York only had one family. You know what I mean?
Right.
Of course, they had their problems, but it was the Irish against the Italians. It wasn't Italians beefing with other Italians or Sicilians over area and stuff.
That's how I grew up. It was basically don't shit in your own backyard.
Yeah. And that's how I was taught too.
Right. If you're gonna go fucking steal, go head out west. Go steal out there. You're not gonna. Because when we used to rob the factories right by the house, it's like, what are you doing? You're shitting in your own backyard. Well, it's like, we don't know. We're just seeing what's in there.
That's crazy. I can't understand how guys do that, man.
Primo, let me ask you a question. I think I asked you yesterday, but what is the nowadays, from where you're coming from and meeting all these people growing up, how did they carry themselves compared to the ones that carry themselves now? What was the difference?
Yeah. Back in the day, especially, number one, you didn't like 5 guys on one. You didn't let that happen. If you didn't gang up on one guy or 2 guys. It's like you made that. If you saw that shit going down, it's like, hey, back off. Let's go. Let the fight go down. 1-on-1, 2-on-2. If it's going to be a gang fight, fine. But 5 guys on one, get the fuck off. And if it's your word, man, your word is your bond.
That's the way it's supposed to be. Yeah. But I mean, as far as them being like the people that I knew, you wouldn't hear them go at other people on the street and stuff like that. It was always quiet. It was hush hush. You know what I mean? It wasn't writing checks or nothing like that. They kept it where, how can I explain it? They were more respectable.
It's respect. Exactly. That's exactly what's lacking. It's the overall respect. It's not here anymore. It's not here.
Yeah. And I can tell you, this is how my mom met my stepfather. She was a cocktail waitress on the Manheim Road Strip, and those outfit guys loved her. Never had a bad thing to say about her. She would make more in tips than my real father made in a month. She was making more in one night. So she was really supporting everybody. And then she got sick, and then my stepfather came into the picture. So, but all the outfit guys used to tease him. It's like, and he gets the broad. So they used to, it's like everybody loved her, but he got it. And my stepfather, when he was growing up, he hung out with the 42 gang. He wasn't part of it. I think maybe was a driver once in a while for him, but he wasn't into the tough guy thing, or he wasn't into the murdery thing, or stealing shit.
For Cerrone?
He grew up with her. They were childhood buddies. They went to like grade school together.
So he was a hang around guy, basically. He hung out with them and
and when the 42, that's how they got, guys, from, it's like they pick come and work for us here. And so Cerrone always looked out for my stepfather. It's like, okay, I want to work for me at this hotel, or we'll give you a job if they're meeting at a social club and they can't trust anybody, I'll bring him in to work at the social club.
Yeah.
Because they know they can trust him.
Yeah, they looked to stand-up guys. That's what it was, I guess. Back in them days, they,
right.
You had to have that persona.
Yeah.
Where you had to be that.
I do have. There is a story with Lombardo. So the guy who used to cut my hair, it was Vinny's salon in Elmwood Park. 2 or 3 times I was in there, he was getting his hair cut. So that's where we went to the same hair guy. That's about all I got. I never really talked to him though, but he was like, his picture was on the wall, So that was the guy that cut my hair. So back when I had hair,
When's the last time you went into that area, Primo?
Oh, I go back every year.
How's the change? How do you feel seeing the change? Because I know I had a change.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. Back in the day, the first thing they tore down, like I said, the Hell's Henchmen had a clubhouse on Mannheim Road. They turned one of the times they left and went there, they turned it into a strip joint, so that was like 20 years later, now they're tearing down. If you've heard of Navistar International Harvester, big truck manufacturer. Yeah. They had like a whole square mile on Mannheim Road, North Avenue, just in that area. They're tearing that down. Wow. So from what I understand, when I go back in May, that's going to be just, which I can't even imagine. It's just going to be another open field, until they put something there. So they're tearing down one of the biggest manufacturing facilities, that the country had. I mean, that was a big, they employed, I think at one time they employed like 120,000 people. So they're gone.
Yeah, that's not, yeah.
Yeah. There's so many. Yeah. Growing up, that was the area, it was a blue collar area. Some of the bigger places had white collar jobs, and some of the guys had, their dads worked, white collar jobs, but the rest were blue collar guys, factories. It's
funny because like you're telling us your history basically, and I could imagine, and Carlos might be able to agree with me on this, so can Lou, but when you're growing up, you go to certain neighborhoods that were like stepping into the pits of hell.
Yeah.
And now being older, you go into them neighborhoods expecting to see the same thing, but now you see guys walking their little dogs and little coffee shops, and it's like, what happened,
Yeah. Well, back again, so Little Italy, the Italians kind of moved out of there and went to the Patch. Well, Little Italy became Cabrini Green. And that was, just basically low-income housing, And
so it turned into a hood.
Turned into the hood. Yeah. And then they got rid of the low-income housing part, and now it's gentrified. So what used to be Cabrini Green got knocked down, and now it's all condos,
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
It's so, every time I go back, it's different,
Carlos, do you remember the South Side of Brooklyn?
Who?
You there, Carlos?
I think Carlos is working the chats.
Yeah, Carlos is working.
Chicago Muscle. How you doing, my man?
There it is. Chicago's in the house.
Chicago Muscle. I put him through my Chicago questionnaire when he first got on the scene.
Chicago's the real deal.
He's a stud and a half. Let me tell you.
He
Oh,
is the real deal. Hey, Stacy.
Yeah.
Long time no see.
So I'm gonna have to tap out, guys. I gotta go take care of something with my kids.
Yeah,
my
yeah.
brother.
I've actually gotta run as well. You know,
But we had a good turnout,
Definitely.
though, man.
I really appreciate you guys even asking me on. You know,
Anytime,
Right,
bro. You can
right.
show up whenever you want, man.
And I apologize for losing my train of thought. I was like ready to
No, you
tap
did
out.
good. You did fine, bro. I mean,
It's
you did
all
excellent.
good, man.
You know what I mean?
You did
Yeah.
pretty
You did
good. Well,
excellent.
we got to see you. We got to talk to you. We see you in the chat all the time. There you go. Stand up.
Yeah, no,
Stand up character. There you go.
I grew up in the chats. That's
Yeah. But I like what I liked about this was the chat got to engage, ask questions and
I think you guys, that's a great, subscriber of the week. That's a great idea. I love it.
Yeah, that's what we're going with. That's what
I'm looking forward to seeing some of my peeps.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, I just realized. I think it was maybe a day ago that there's someone in the chat that's from Buffalo. I didn't know. I looked at their website or their page, and I seen they were from Buffalo. So we got some talking to do.
For sure, guys. It's been a blast. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you for coming, and anytime, man, you're more than welcome.
All right, you guys have a good night.
All right,
Primo. Thank you, Primo. You rock, my brother.
Thank you, Carlos. Big Lou, Nelson,
peace,
bro.
Gotcha.
Thanks for coming on, bro.
So, guys, did a good job. We want to do a roll call before we out.
Yeah, I want to say thank everybody for showing your support.
Definitely. Thank you for coming in.
You want me to do that? You want me to do it or I'll do it? Good night. Thanks for coming, everybody. Chicago Muscle, Sen Larson, down in that Pinkville, Den Dews, Edward Everett, Carol, Stacy, Sons of Hawaii, Mickey Griggs, Danny Stories.
Danny Stories.
Edward Everett. I think I already said Edward Everett. Mickey Griggs. No, Mickey Griggs ain't here. Yankees for Life. Let's see. Anthony Incognito.
Carlos Munoz.
Boston Red 2. Huh?
I said Carlos Munoz, Big Lou, they're here too.
Carlos Gianni. Carlos Muniz.
Muniz.
Muniz, no Muñoz. Carajo. Joe de la Mura.
Pound of the Pinkville. There you go.
There you go. Anthony Elio. Donnie and Dana the Smiths.
Muniz with an I. They keep thinking I'm that guy Munoz with the O.
Andrew White. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I think that's about it. Let's see. Yeah. Anybody, if I forgot you?
Thanking Primo for coming on. But that's about it, man. So what's the word?
Nightmare 1503.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
There was a couple other new ones. Oh,
Stacy.
P Nava, Maverick. Anthony says salute.
Oh, and that guy Primo that's in the chat too.
Robert Pimentel. Who? Primo?
Yeah, that guy Primo. He's in the chat.
Primo too. Big shout out and thanks to Primo.
Definitely.
Chi-Town to Fresno. Yep. Yeah, I think that's everybody.
There we go. So what's the word of the week, brother?
Word of the week is unido. United.
Oh.
Or unity.
Carlos, what's your word of the week, brother?
Respect.
Respect. There you go. Mine's gonna be bendiciones.
Blessings.
Blessings to all that came in, man.
Right.
And of course, Buffalo in the house. The Endus. I'm from 7th in Jersey. Lived there for a while. Had to throw that at him.
Yeah, he's from
All
upstate.
right,
He's from upstate. Yo, Buffalo. See?
Yeah, Buffalo.
Yeah.
But all right, guys. Listen, I'm gonna let you go. Have a good night, and we'll talk on the side.
Yes, sir.
All
right,
right,
fellas.
have a good night, guys. Take care.
Likewise.
Have a good night, everyone, and thanks for the support.
Yes, sir.
Peace.